Alright, take two. Try and read Ashoka in the Golden Tree by myself, Dakota Walker. Let's see how far we get this time. Alright, Chapter 1. A morning dew casts itself across the Shao Temple floors as fog grasps the mountain walls. Ashoka slowly wakes at the first sight of morning light. In the near distance, intricate sparks sizzle in the moist, cool air. Collecting himself, Ashoka comes to his feet and walks toward the four monks living at the mountain's temple. They all gather around the filled, steaming earth-made clay pot to dip and fill their earthen-made cups. The year is 505, and Shao Temple is in its infancy, neatly perched on a mother of a mountain and its only level stretch of ground. The monks rarely speak to each other, as each monk is on their own journey, the monks having a task of providing the young temple with the resources needed. Before their paths crossed, all 5 monks would travel to meet their callings, to serve on these newly formed sacred grounds, becoming their purpose. Each monk at Shao Temple isolated from the world. Ashoka spends his days tending the earth, molding the trees, weeding greens, and collecting edible forage foods near the temple grounds. Foraging is his ultimate purpose because of his immense diversification of plant knowledge. He has yet to make light of his newfound purpose and calling. In the cooler part of 504, just before 505, Ashoka noticed a distant flickering in the winds as a casting sun illuminated a golden tree. It is not always gold and turns its color before the year comes to a close. A golden tree in the furthest reach of his sight's ability is beyond intriguing. Nearly a year later, Ashoka gazes from the mountain's top above Shao Temple, waiting for the first signs of gold. The rustling golden canopy is tempting, and Ashoka wishes to see the tree up close. It is not against a monk's nature to want to explore the mountain's edges. For 2 or 3 daylights, the 4 monks truly welcomed his return after the short hikes. Ashoka will bring back foraged goods or interesting stones, and to their delight, they are often given something new they have yet to see or experience. Could be a perfect tree nut, only ready for consumption a couple times a year, or a story about encountering the wildlife. Ashoka is looking within himself, because he knows that in due time he must decide. Taking his seat by the nearest stream, Ashoka notices a flake of gold sailing towards his resting feet. He quickly and gracefully reaches down to scoop it into his hardened palm. Taking the smallest bite, he samples a leaf to measure for adverse reactions, but carefully holds on to the rest of his leaf, soon to be nestled in the teacup for later. The day continues to pass by as a rushing of clarity overcomes Ashoka, not unlike a cleansing rain on a warm sunny day. His mind is already made up and has been made up since he first saw the golden tree a year prior. Ashoka started collecting himself and turned toward Shao Temple. He will finish the day by walking back to the temple. It will be close to dark once he returns to the temple from the peak of a stone mountain. Ashoka planned as he hiked back towards the temple, while thinking that in the coming days he will gather his necessities. He did not know how long the journey would take, but had trust in his abilities to forage. On top of that thought, he would bring the foods and tools. The hairs on his neck raised as he thought about the golden tree from 504. Alright, so that's like the part 1 of the first chapter. Ashoka returns to Shao Temple and greets the fellow monks with rounded stones, berries, misshapen sticks, foraged nuts, and edible plants from the higher peaks. The clouds lift for the sun. Hot water sits near the fireside. He takes his empty cup and fills it to the brim. The golden flake of a once full leaf, he assumes, tops the water and spins out of control as the steam leaves the cup. Ashoka is deep in thought and heads to the cliffside, gazing out into the forest. He scans the canopies, first scanning canopies closer and further away as his eyes adjust to the distance he is looking. Finally, in the distance, a rustling of golden globe leaves, quivering at each distant gust of wind. A waking dream begins, and Ashoka thinks to himself to leave by first light. The other monks work to repair and strengthen the temple walls. Each monk was still thinking about the gifts Ashoka brought them from his journey throughout the day. Ashoka is still daydreaming about his almost certain coming journey. He opens and closes his eyes to look at the distant golden tree and tries to make sure he is awake and not deep into a dream. The golden tree of the distant valley, he thinks, could this tea leaf be the same leaf seen far from here? Could this piece of golden leaf catch the gusts of wind and make it so far? The golden tea brings his mind to an easing, the journey coming, and he appreciates everything that led to this very moment. Ashoka's day comes to a close once every necessity for the journey is accounted for and packed. Collecting of 4 satchels, filling the first with an extra earth and clay cooking pot and his earth and clay cup for tea or water. He has collected tea leaves, greens, nuts, fruits, vegetables, and a couple of favorite stones for good luck. Particularly, he packs what he calls his thumb stone, a stone that fits the shape of his thumb as if it were molded by clay. 2 satchels filled with dried rice, 1-day-old rice cakes, and the more durable foods. The 3rd satchel filled with fresh greens and neatly packed to preserve them as much as possible. Greens collected from the temple gardens that evening. The 4th satchel carrying his cooking wares. Returning to the temple, Ashoka thinks of the far-off golden tree. He lays to rest his head, calming his mind, and quickly drifts to sleep. High above the mountain, in canopies of trees, Ashoka is floating above, looking down upon his magnificent dream state. Alright, so that's 2 parts for chapter 1. Now we're on to chapter 2, part 3. In the darkness of the early morning, Ashoka rekindles the weak fire from the night before. He quietly heats water and makes his morning tea. He gazes out past the mountain's edge and is welcomed by a sea of clouds. Looking down at his fresh tea, he thinks of the golden leaf piece twirling in the water the day before. At the first bird's song, Ashoka gathers his belongings previously prepared the night before. In his right hand, Ashoka carries a strong pine sapling cut for balance the day prior. Before the others wake, Ashoka begins his descent from the stone mountain and to seek the tree of his dreams. Ashoka thinks of his return and how he plans to be gone for 10 suns and 9 moons. He looks back at the sleeping monks a last time before he is out of sight. Ashoka bows his head out of respect and turns to set forth on his journey, taking his first step into the canopies where other monks would never dare. Driven by the desire to reach the golden tree, takes hold of Ashoka as he climbs down the mountain edge. The 4 monks wake to Ashoka's void, having left so soon. They all understand Ashoka must be on a journey this time and will not be seen for a period. The monks will continue to carry out their work, knowing that is their purpose at this exact moment. Wherever he may be, each monk nods in 4 directions as they bid wellness and strength to Ashoka. 4. Ashoka continues his descent down the cliffside. Feeling of no human presence strengthens as he carefully hugs the mountain edge. Grasping at large stones, pebbles begin to fall and glide down the stone mountain, bracing his weight among small trees as he continues his mindful pace. Deep in thought, he realizes that there are no monks or traces of human life on this side of the mountain. This is not the typical path up. The small animals seem to not be worried about his being in their environment. Ashoka is stepping into a void of what he previously understood about the nature around him and notices several changes. Ashoka knows the monks sent their blessings because of that being the monks' practices. The sun continues to move and enter the middle of the sky as the journey could not feel more important to Ashoka. Ashoka pulls a fistful of temple-grown greens as a snack to replenish his lost energies. Another hand pulls a palm full of forged tree nuts to suffice his now waning hunger. Continuing his descent down the mountain's edge, unknown birds call to each other. Small animals scurry about, just out of sight against the stone-hardened ground. Each step taken causes chaos as small stones ricochet off jagged mountain walls, causing sounds unknown to Ashoka. The higher elevation is chilly, and he notices his breath. Luckily, his hooded robe contains his body's heat, and is warming himself by the pace of his descent. Ashoka's long gray hair and full beard store plenty of warmth. Part 5. Looking around, Ashoka notices the seasonal changes taking hold. Noticing the leaves turning from green to yellows, reds, and browns, some leaves carried off by the occasional gust of wind, other leaves beginning to gracefully fall from the canopies. The seasonal change is certainly starting to slow, but the coming of cooler weather is inevitable. All the leaves will eventually cover the earth. The sun falls beyond the mountain's top, past the distant temple. Down the animal forge path comes a decent-sized clearing. It is just enough space for some comfort this first night of the moon. Ashoka notices this is the only level spot of land since he left. Ashoka pulls his earthen pot from his satchels and gathers some leaves for tea. In the distance, he hears a trickle of water. Setting out down the mountain, Ashoka comes up to a small clear stream. He fills both his cooking earthen and drinking earthen pot with water. Looking down and cleaning his hands of dirt and rock, Ashoka sees a reflection of himself surrounded by a chaotic and immense mountain wilderness. A couple of small fish glide downstreams. Stones on the stream's bed shine every color back toward the monk's sight. Ashoka returns to the clear and only level spot around this mountainside. Drinking most of the water he gathers to ease his thirst and plans to heat the rest for his tea. He pulls some kindling from one satchel and two perfect stones that fit in his hardened palms. Ashoka collects small and medium-sized tree sticks that are long past living to aid to the kindling, finding a couple of bigger pieces of wood from his journey to the stream. Ashoka places the stones in each of his hands, and holding them slightly apart with his strength, the two clash, and a spark ignites the kindling. The fire picks up pace and burns enough to add some small sticks to the flames. Ashoka adds the medium sticks and eventually the two larger pieces of wood. His water bubbles as time seems to pass quickly. The moisture in the pot reawakens the prior day's rice cakes he brought. This will be a good feed for the first day. Leaning against the mountain's edge, Ashoka removes his hood and eats his rice cakes. As they rehydrate, the piece of a golden leaf from before brings a mind-clearing tea experience. A sense of sadness flows over the monk. This small bit of golden leaf is nearly no more until he reaches the golden tree. The leaf is getting old and has no flavor at this point. The properties soon kick in, and Ashoka's worries become comforted. As he thinks about his journey and reflects on the adventures from today, Ashoka finds 3 more dead pieces of tree to stoke the fire before he falls asleep. Pulling his hood over his head, he thinks of the distant golden trees at the closing of his eyes. A chill runs down Ashoka's spine. In the distance, an eerie howl sounded from a distant predatory bird. Collecting a few sticks to keep the fire smoldering, the light of the moon fills the night sky. Ashoka thinks of the partial gold leaf spinning on top of his tea water as he drifts back to sleep. Chapter 3. The prancing of a bird's feet dancing across his hood startles Ashoka from a deep sleep. A few twigs of kindling take off in the morning flight. The bird's flight comes with Ashoka's first movement. The bird calls back with thanks or distrust. The morning sun warms the cliffside as Ashoka gathers himself. So you can find any of this on Amazon, and if you reach out to me, I can also try to mail you a copy. So thank you for the support, and hope you continue watching.